Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Introducing, my name is Nini Krasmanto Adia. I will present a rigorous research journal by Tipukawa Connelly, Esther Jensen, and Rachel Keller, and I thank him. This research journal is entitled Can Math Education Research Improve the Teaching of Abstract Algebra? Table of Content. Abstract, research question, method and data analysis, research satisfaction, teaching method, and conclusion. Abstract teaching methods. It is arguably the most important factor affecting student learning. Efforts to improve teaching have led to reform instead of being proposed and tested throughout the college's mathematics curriculum. Abstract algebra specifically has been the subject of such reform, including new curricula and pedagogies, since at least the 1916, yet there is little evidence that these changes instead have widely improved the way abstract algebra is taught. We conducted a survey of abstract algebra instructors to investigate typical teaching practices and, more specifically, faculty knowledge, goal, and orientation toward teaching and learning. Results revealed that a majority of respondents appear quite content to lecture, even among those who indicated a willingness to consider a change of pedagogical strategy. There is very little usage of existing reform material or interaction with pedagogical research results. There appears to be an impermeable barrier between the pedagogical research findings and recommendations and practitioners who may implement them. Research question. There is essentially no research that helps us understand why some mathematicians adopt preform practices in their teaching and some do not. 3. There has been little research attempting to explore these issues from the perspective of the instructors who are the ones being asked to change practices. We investigated the following research questions. 1. What pedagogical practices do abstract algebra professors report using in their classroom and why? 2. What encouragement and constraints on their use of non-lecture practices do they perceive? Method and data analysis. The Credence instrument designed to measure mathematicians' knowledge, goal, and learning or teaching orientation. We adapted questions from the Herdenson and Densey Physics Education Survey and the Characteristic Survey of Successful Programs in College Calculus in an effort to understand their beliefs about teaching and learning. We asked them to describe and characterize their classroom practices, including the motivation behind those choices. Survey requests were sent to departmental administrators at approximately 200 institutions targeting instructors who teach undergraduate abstract algebra. Beside on picture 1, the intention is to survey instructors at master and PhD awarding institutions. However, a small part of our respondents, 9%, come from schools that only offer degrees Bachelor of Mathematics. In total, we received 131 completed survey. Overall, respondents, 92% of the permanent stream faculty, had an excellent experience with teaching in general. 81% reported 6+ years, and with abstract algebra in particular, and will most likely teach and mixed first choice undergraduate group, i.e. education, physics, mixed engineering with a pure mathematics major. To answer the first research question, the researcher examined the respondents' self-reported teaching practices by asking how often per class period they engage in various practices. We compared these responses to instructor self-reported satisfaction with outcomes and their level of agreement with a series of statements designed to measure teaching or learning orientation. Respondents indicated their level of agreement on a 4-point scale. To answer the second research question, we categorize instructor report on the adoption of non-lecture reform practices in the purpose, contrast, and appropriate support, and we compare them with those cited in the literature. Collectively, 87.6% of respondents said they were satisfied with the textbook they used. In short, instructors that we interpreted as reporting mixed satisfaction indicated that survey learning most of the important content and worked quite hard. Comment from instructors that we marked as dissatisfied were complaints about student unsatisfactory work ethics, motivation, and abilities. While the group varied widely in typical responses, it is interesting to note that two general themes emerged across all levels of satisfaction. The first, the first observation is general frustration with student lack of prerequisite prompt skill and poor evidence writing skill. Another common opinion is that it is difficult and inappropriate to design and teach courses for different constitutions. The consensus is that no population is adequately served by teaching them simultaneously in earnest. Of the instructors surveyed, the combined passing rate of students was 87.82%, with only 12.18% receiving D or F or W grades. Teaching method. Lectures are the most common pedagogical practices, with 85% of respondents claiming that they are currently teaching to teach abstract algebra. This includes 8% of instructors who report returning to class after trying some other method. Of the 23% who now or in the past used non-lecture pedagogical and curricular material, the vast majority make them themselves without formal support. There are only two respondents who mention that use a particular curriculum. In summary, the two main themes in the comments relate to the effort and support required to revise and teach such a class and concern about covering the appropriate amount of material. Of the 32 instructors who cited coverage as a reason not to adopt the non-lecture format, 23 responded negatively when asked, "Do you feel pressure from your department to cover a vast set of material in your abstract and algebra course?" Therefore, it seems that concern about coverage mainly internally rather than stemming from actual external sources of pressure. One of the most interesting findings is the contradiction that arises when comparing responses to the following choice. So it seems that what instructors think is best for student learning doesn't happen with any frequency. This, we argue that there is mismatch between beliefs about student learning and actual teaching practices. One could argue that this discrepancy might be explained by the perceived lack of time to make adjustment to their teaching practices on the part of the instructor. However, the data suggests other point. Conclusion. There are four main findings that we highlight. First, lectures are the dominant mode of teaching, and even those who have tried, other pedagogies seem to be turning back to lecture at breakneck speed. Moreover, given the common amount of time, money, and energy spent developing, testing, promoting, and training mathematicians to use the new curriculum and pedagogies, there is hardly any uptake. Those who use non-traditional material are much more likely to develop their own material than adopt the NSF-supported curriculum. The second major finding relates to factors that influence pedagogical decision. First, will the faculty claim they have ability to change their choice of study? The reported level of satisfaction indicated that they have no desire to do so. Furthermore, the majority of distraction stem from perceived problem with students and not the subject matter. Given the strong content focus and high belief in the efficacy of lecture, in a fear that a collective abstract algebra teaching faculties have later interest in adopting new pedagogical approaches at this time. We propose to carry research direction. First, we need to further explore the reason why mathematicians seem to believe so much in their current practices, the types of evidence they hold to be dispositive, and what way in which new approaches have achieved meaningful penetration. Second, we need to explore further the types of change to teaching practices that mathematicians will adopt. There appears to be a conflict between the stated goal of national policy board and organization and the way faculty in the field think about their program. These ideas are extensively researched, and given the comprehensive pedagogical support available, often do not require extensive time commitment and are often mistaken for non-traditional methodologies. But without open communication between researchers and practitioners, the fidelity and feasibility of these ideas are not precise. Mathematics education researchers have spent significant time literally decides training to understand how students learn mathematics in general and specific content areas in particular.